The Great Northern Railway, also known as the Main North Line, is a major railway in New South Wales that runs from Strathfield in Sydney to Armidale and then on to Wallangarra, where it reaches the Queensland-New South Wales border and links up with Queensland Southern Line to go through to Brisbane. The line was the original main line between Sydney and Brisbane, with the first section opening in 1857 from the port of Newcastle to East Maitland for the Hunter River Railway Company's line. At a public meeting for the company's establishment in 1853, William Charles Wentworth envisioned the line's extension to Scone and Sydney. The line was then extended to Maitland in 1858, Singleton in 1863, Muswellbrook in 1869, Scone in 1871, and Murrurundi in 1872. It was then extended to West Tamworth by 1878, Armidale in 1883, and finally reached the Queensland border at Wallangarra in 1888. However, disagreements between the two states of Queensland and New South Wales led to Wallangarra harbouring two different gauges, with New South Wales having 4 foot 8.5 inch standard gauge and Queensland having 3 feet 6 inch narrow gauge. This resulted in Wallangarra being a break of gauge station, something commonly found throughout colonial Australian railways, such as the station of Albury between New South Wales and Victoria. This meant that passengers and freight both had to change trains to go into each state, a laborious process. Despite this complication, the railway became a major transport for wool, livestock, and other rural exports, heading to Sydney and other export ports. However, the break of gauge at Wallangarra was still a major issue in the line, and in 1930, the North Coast Line was completed, a faster, more efficient, and break of gauge free route via the North Coast. Despite being bypassed, the line still remained busy for many years afterwards, with the line becoming a major freight link to the wool and wheat regions of North and Northwestern New South Wales. However, in 1988, the newly elected Guyra state government commissioned a report into the SRA by Booz Allen Hamilton. As a result, the line between Tenterfield and Wallangarra was closed, with the last train to operate north of Tenterfield being an Australian Railway Historical Society charter on the 15th of January 1988, hauled by diesel locomotive 4487, and the last train to Glen Innes being steam locomotive 3001, which was on the 22nd of October 1989. Following the truncation of the Northern Tablelands Express in 1990, the line north of Tamworth saw little use until the Explorer service was introduced to Armidale in 1993. Surprisingly, the line to Glen Innes, though officially having been closed in 1989, was still operational in July of 1992, when diesel locomotive 4499 operated a crew training service, the last to Glen Innes. Today the Main North Line is operational between Sydney and Armidale, with the main passenger service between the two cities being the Armidale Explorer, which divides at Werris Creek, with the other half going on the Bungulla line to Moree. In fact, I've actually been on this portion of line, from Muswellbrook to Armidale, and I've got a video on it. You should probably watch it. It's a pretty scenic journey. Hello everyone, welcome to New South Wales Train Vlogs, and today is another episode of Abandoned Railways. This time, it's on the Great Northern Railway, from Armidale to Wallangarra. Starting off, we're here at the station of Dumaresq, or Dumaresq, that's apparently how it's spelled, but apparently pronounced Dumaresq, as someone told me. The station's in relatively good condition. It's grassed over, but not as overgrown as some other stations. I've got some signals here. And this railway building. The track surrounding Dumaresq is in relatively good condition. Much better than some other tracks that I've seen on abandoned railways. Station building.
absolutely covered in bird poo. And over here is station sign, Dumaresq. Here we've got a pretty big tree that's taking up the part of the track that would have been occupied by a train. Surrounding it, pretty empty area, not much, just farmland. Huge shed and a tree growing between the tracks. This part's open, I'm assuming that's a toilet. I am definitely not going inside there because abandoned toilets are not what I'm known for. Some weeds growing on the concrete, though definitely not as much as what I've seen at some other stations, especially on the Blaney-Demandra line. Now Dumaresq was the first station on the Great Northern Railway to close. It was in the 1970s before the line closed in the 1980s. And if you look around, you'll see why. There's absolutely nothing except a station master's residence, maybe a couple of farms, some sheep, possible part of a sign over here, some sort of concrete structure, and something over there as well. Just look at this shed, just look at the size of that. It's massive, it's huge. It's about half the size of the, actually never mind, probably almost the size of the whole platform itself. But got the tree growing between the tracks. Anyway guys, that's pretty much all there is to this station, and now we're going to move on to the next location. We're now at the next location, which is the station of Black Mountain on the Great Northern Railway. So the village of Black Mountain is actually really nice, really calm, peaceful, and it's a shame that the railway is disused, because it could provide, just a second link to Brisbane and through all of the towns like Glen Innes, Tenterfield, all of those. We have railway stations in River, so why shouldn't we have railway stations in, say, Guyra? Come back over here, we got a shed and the station building with the toilets. It's a station building style found throughout a lot of these late 1800s station buildings, especially this colour, this orangish, creamy colour. Some information over here. Railway accidents. Never heard of that before. Pretty cool that a rail accident even occurred here. Heritage walk booklets. It's locked. Actually, never mind. It's not. I'll actually take one of these. Actually, take one of those. Oh shoot! I took two. Assuming this is also heritage, I took three. Oh, it is. Alright. a visitor's book. Alright, I'll put in my name on there. Does it have pen? Pencil? Let's take a look at this. Oh, there's a pen. Alright. Put that back in. Close that up. Another sign about the different types of rail. And inside here we've got station master, a fire pit, not much else. It is under security. Got the levers. They do not work. And a water tank. And here is the end of Black Mountain Railway Station. Fence off part of the track begins there. Here. Another sign about the lamp shed. Pretty much just a signal box. And over here, this is the view of Black Mountain. Got a lake further up there. And that's pretty much it. So without further ado, let's move on to the next location. I'm now here at the next location, which is the station of Guyra, 4,330 feet above sea level, which is some, I don't know, 1,000 meters above sea level in meters, something around that. It's $4 entry for the museum. Over here is the goods platform. It's filled with just rusty bits and bobs of machinery. Walking along, goods shed over there. And the staircase leading down to the tracks. Another shed over here. Some nice looking trees. It's even got lights. I've got the signal box. The signals are still in there. And here is the end of the platform. A sign saying Guyra. Pretty cool station and all. And it's good that some of these stations, especially Black Mountain and Guyra, are still being preserved. It's good to see that the Great Northern Railway isn't just being left to rot like some other railway stations around New South Wales. Anyway guys, not much left to talk about Guyra, except the fact that there is yet another fence that is erected when the railway station ends. Bathrooms, and the museum is somewhere inside here for a $4 entrance fee. Worth it. Anyway guys, let's move on to the next railway station. Now coming up to the next station, the station of Ben Lomond, 4,473 feet above sea level, making Ben Lomond the highest railway station in all of New South Wales. Of course, excluding the ski tube, because it's purely a tourist railway. It's so short, and obviously it is already so high when it starts. In meters, it's I don't know, can't really calculate that rapidly, but I think it's somewhere around 1.5 kilometers high, 1,500 or so meters, maybe 1,600, something like that. It's here when you notice the degradation of the track. At the previous stations, like Black Mountain and Guyra, the line was still being preserved, pretty much, especially the stations. But now, the station appears to be preserved, the line not so much. Just look at this. Although it would be very hard to clean this up once it's already got to this state. If I pointed the camera here, you would not be able to tell that there was ever an active railway line here, especially not a major one. Going up the station, we see the station building, which is a similar style to all of the other stations on the Great Northern Railway, except that the colour is a bit more creamier than orange. Just an observation. You've got the toilets, ladies' toilets, the waiting room. Let's take a look inside. Not much, just a standard waiting room, and the booking office, which is obviously closed. Over here, the signal box. Anyway guys, that's pretty much it to Ben Lomond, so let's move on to the next location.